What's up, crew? Hope you're having a rad day. I know I am because this is the New Bike Day episode. I'm Alan, and this is the MTB Alan channel. I'm Alan, this is the MTB Alan channel, and today I get to introduce you to my brand new bike. If you've been with the channel for any amount of time, you're familiar with this bike. That's right, the Santa Cruz Bronson. Been with the channel a while. It has been a badass, do everything bike. Loved this bike. So why would I change? Well, the main reason is this bike. That's right, the 2021 Santa Cruz Nomad, fresh out from Santa Cruz. I guess that doesn't really answer the question of why I would switch bikes. Tell you what, let's do the specs real quick and we'll come back to that. The 2021 Santa Cruz Nomad X01 build in adder green and magenta. I like to call it watermelon. The frame is the carbon CC, so it's a little bit lighter. SRAM X01 Eagle drivetrain, code RSC brakes, Santa Cruz carbon bars mounted onto a Bergtech stem, 170 millimeters of suspension front and back provided by Fox. Fox Float X2 factory shock, and that beefy 38 Float factory fork with that Grip 2 damper we all know and love. And the whole rig rolls on a Maxxis Assegai and a Minion DHR2. Couple of things I transferred over from the Bronson: my One-Up Components composite pedals, Access dropper seat post, that Spank seat, and the carbon reserve wheels. So why would I want to switch from the Bronson to the Nomad? Well, when I was last shopping for bikes, I was fortunate enough to have the Path Bike Shop. Through them, I was able to ride a whole bunch of bikes from a bunch of different brands. And within the Santa Cruz family, it really came down to the Bronson versus the Nomad. The deciding factor was, did I really want that much travel? And also, I really wanted to see what the next generation Nomad was gonna look like. So I got the Bronson, and I fell in love with it. It didn't matter if I was going through rock gardens, climbing long climbs, or just wide open at the bike park. It was a kick butt, do everything bike. At the same time, I was learning that as a rider, I'm a lot more enduro than I am trail. So I'm pretty much always gonna be in a full face and goggles, and a season pass at the bike park is just a foregone conclusion. And if that means that getting a bigger bike is gonna punish me on the climbs, I'd probably be okay with that. Now, I wouldn't recommend this for everybody. If you're looking for a quiver killer, the Bronson is still the right choice. I just figured I train regularly and would probably be able to handle pedaling a bigger, heavier bike, and I was willing to risk regret. So what's life been like as a Nomad? Well, I'm gonna give you my full impressions. This is actually gonna be a bit of a bike review, but put simply, the Nomad allows me to go hard. It means it allows me to go have a rad day, which is why I've got a new shirt coming out that has two colorways, one of which is inspired by the colors of the Nomad, that watermelon green and pink. Also, I'm super stoked on this shirt. This is the How Are You Feeling Today shirt. It helps you and your buddies identify your riding moods. Actually, it's pretty cold in here, so I'm gonna put on a hoodie real quick. That's better. All right, let's get to the ride impressions. I've already gotten to ride the 2021 Nomad on a wide range of terrains, so I have a pretty good feel for it. But let's start with the first ride. This one was pretty rad because it started at the Path Bike Shop where Brandon had mostly built up the Nomad. He was just waiting on me to bring my Bronson down so that we could swap out those parts I wanted to keep. After a little bit of wrenching and Brandon helping me set the sag, I actually got to ride with Brandon. And that was pretty cool because how often do you get to go ride your bike for the first time with the person who built it up? I should say in the past, the first ride on my new bike has not always been the best ride because I'm still getting used to the bike. I feel like the suspension maybe isn't totally set up yet. And I'm also scared of scratching the bike. And it's also new bike day. But on this first ride, things actually were going pretty smoothly. Brandon had dialed in the suspension pretty close. The bike fit was pretty good. I mean, somehow he was able to get my seat height and position like pretty near to perfect. So it was turning out to be a good ride. So how does the Nomad do on the chunk? Well, no surprise, it does great. As a matter of fact, this was the very first thing Brandon and I did when we got to the top of our climb. The 170 millimeters of travel front and rear are great, but I do think that updated lower linkage system along with the longer wheelbase and slacker head tube angle play a huge role. This also makes it really awesome when it gets steep.
Stay left. Drop. Yeah!
Now, I normally get pretty puckered up when it gets steep, but that longer wheelbase and that slacker head tube angle gave me way more confidence. Don't get me wrong, I still get pretty puckered up, but it's more of a soft pucker these days. So this is all great for rock gardens and steep sections, but how does that affect turning on the Nomad? On my early rides, I was still figuring out what the Nomad wanted in turns. You can hear how much I'm skidding on my first run through tight turns. It took me a little bit to figure out, but eventually I realized I just needed to be more aggressive.
Okay.
I needed to lean the bike over more.
Starting to feel this bike now.
And drive through turns with my feet. I know, it's pretty obvious, I'm still learning, but once I made this change, the Nomad came to life and started showing its more playful side, which I guess brings us to how it jumps. When it comes to jumping, bear in mind that I'm still a beginner intermediate jumper and I haven't had the chance to run this rig up at Snow Summit. That being said, when I have hit jumps or just little side hits, I've had no trouble getting it into the air. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I cleared this double. And this is the highest I've gotten on this particular jump. I know, not quite Brett Reader yet, but it's definitely higher than I've ever gotten on that jump. I kind of wanted to talk about how different the Nomad is from the Bronson when it comes to jumping, but aside from the longer wheelbase, I have to keep in mind that we did add progression to the Bronson by adding some volume spacers, which I haven't done on the Nomad. Either way, the Nomad jumps well and allows me to feel more confident in the air. So what's it been like pedaling this thing? Honestly, it hasn't been too bad. It definitely pedals like a bigger bike, and I have been using my fitness a bit more to get up the hills. And I guess I have added a little bit more low-speed compression to the fork, but overall, the descents have made the pedaling penalty worth it. And I think over time, my pedaling fitness will rise to meet the demand. So, who's this bike for? Like I said before, if you're looking for a quiver killer, the Bronson is still the right choice. It's gonna be a blast whether you're going through rock gardens, going full out at the bike park, doing more XC rides, climbing, all that kind of stuff, still a solid bike. If on the other hand, you're more likely to shuttle and hit the bike park, and possibly if you're willing to suffer a little bit more on the climbs to get gnarlier on the descents, the Nomad is probably the right choice. So I'm stoked on how the Nomad can be so beefy and so playful at the same time. It's definitely harder to pedal than the Bronson, but I'm getting accustomed to the added required fitness and really digging how it feels on the descents. Do I have any regrets? So far, I've put about 75 miles on the Nomad, and I have to say, I have no regrets. No regrets. All right, crew, I'll see you next week. Like this video, subscribe this channel, notify that bell, but most of all, have a rad day.